Hello and welcome to episode 6 of We Are Endangered Species. My name is Zoltán Rendes and I brought you two pieces of news from the soft apocalypse. Recently, a US Congresswoman said that people in the Ice Age did not pay taxes to melt the ice, so why should we fix the planet? You shouldn't fix the planet, you dummy. We need not to destroy it. The other news is that the studies shows that we are probably the last generations on Earth who can see the magical flight of the fireflies. If you want to read a story about that, go to weareendangeredspecies.com. If you want to send us a message, a suggestion, or a question, or you have a story, send it to info@weareendangeredspecies.com. Follow us on Instagram and Facebook and also on TikTok. But now, here is Balázs, who will tell us why we are endangered species today.
And today's reason we are an endangered species is social media, or rather, the social nature of human beings. Does it not boggle your mind that elephants, lions, wolves, but even ants and bees are social animals just like us? But after millions of years of evolution, they have not collectively turned on each other based on myths, beliefs, and hearsay. They haven't developed tools to make their species go extinct faster, and they haven't deployed their ability to communicate for the greater bad. Then again, we are the only social species that has a collective memory due to language, or as Harari calls it, our operating system, and we've managed to design a tool, AI, that has now hacked that operating system. So, despite our magnificent intelligence and memory, we've been steadily working towards extinguishing our species as a whole, and along with it, numerous others who inhabit this planet, and of course, the planet itself. It is everyone's God-given right, there's another myth, God, to be stupid, but most abuse the privilege. Social media has amplified and sped up the rate at which human interactions disappear into the abyss. Smileys and memes have replaced words, a far cry from Whitman and Shakespeare, and an inkling back to the hieroglyphics of ancient Egypt, and they've vanished. Sorry, foreshadowing a bit here. Our nexus, whatever technology we use to build it, is dying faster because we've isolated ourselves, desensitized our moral compasses, and refused to see the other side's story. We've sacrificed our last drop of empathy at the altar of clicks and cannot seem to find the golden mean anymore. It is somewhere between I would die for it and I don't give a fuck. If only our social nature was once again recalibrated to care a tad more about the others in the herd and a tad less about how many likes we get, there might just be a future that's less bleak than the Sahara or Southern Europe in a decade. And here to discuss the matter further is Sharon Missach, joining us from Dubai, a multi-award-winning media marketing and communications expert and founder and host of the podcast Let's Talk DXB.
So, hello, Sharon. How are you?
I'm well. Thank you so much for having me on the podcast.
It's great to see you again. And before we even start with the questions, I can answer some of these questions in the name of Sharon. I've been a guest on her talk show, Let's Talk DXB, and she's absolutely fantastic in opening people up on. She opened me up, which is quite a challenge actually. So it was a great conversation. And now that you have been doing Let's Talk DXB, fantastic podcast, please check it out. For years now, it's honest, authentic conversations with this beautiful lady, not just a beautiful face, but a beautiful soul too, and in a very closed up world. And she lives in Dubai full time, so Dubai is even more closed up than Europe. And people are hiding behind their masks. So, Sharon, is it possible to open up people in this closed up world?
Oh, well, I've taken on the challenge, right? I think Let's Talk DXB says it all, really. I think it's not easy. It's not easy. And I think anywhere in the world, it's not easy to be yourself and to show up as yourself because you let the external voices, what will people think, what will people say, mute you a lot of the time. Let's Talk DXB, I put myself on the hot seat, essentially, and I had probably the most authentic and vulnerable conversation I've ever had in my life. I was talking about navigating divorce. And I kid you not, as much as I love people and I love networking, I am not a person that shares about my personal life. So it was a huge challenge, but I found that the need for vulnerability is it's needed more than ever, I think. I think people are seeing through the millions of followers, and I think they're craving authenticity. I think they're craving community and connection. So I'm seeing that coming through a lot more in terms of the content or content that resonates with me for sure. And I think Let's Talk DXB is teaching me that, even meeting with you, Zoltan, people are willing to share and be authentic and have a bigger purpose around why they're using social media and why they're visible.
Why, why put out yourself there? It's like you have a, great executive role at an international company. You have your kid, and I guess you need time to, for your life to live. And
Breathe.
and
Yeah.
it takes a lot of time to do this, and putting yourself out there in a way. Now it's not just podcasts, but live events and all that. So how is that going for you?
Yeah, good question. A deep sigh. For me, I get asked this question a lot. How do you do it all? Why do you do it all? Are you not tired all the time? Of course I'm tired. I think life anyway, if you're trying to pursue multiple things out of purpose and passion. But my why is bigger. Like I said, I started Let's Talk not to go viral or for, millions of followers. I started it from a very vulnerable space. I wanted a genuine outlet to share in a constructive way, and it's grown just through that. I think if you start something with purpose and authenticity, it can kind of, it resonates with people. My why, when I finish work and put my son to bed and then, open the laptop again and do Let's Talk, is because I understand the importance of why I'm doing it. I understand the need for people to learn from others authentically as well. I understand there's people that are going through a lot of things and may not have a community or a safe space or even just a place that they can go and hear from others' stories. And also sometimes, and Let's Talk is not all doom and gloom. It's life, right? Life has its ups and downs. You get to hear fantastic stories about how people are reinventing themselves, pivoting, and that gives hope. It gives me hope. So I think my purpose and my why is bigger, which leads me to putting in the extra work or sacrificing going out on a Saturday and sitting in a coffee shop and doing Let's Talk. And that's what fuels me. And, I'm just so fortunate that I do get to apply my 16 years of industry experience, but just doing it for something different and doing it for a bigger cause, I think. Yeah.
What's your bigger cause in that?
My bigger cause is to build an authentic and genuine community. My biggest cause is, if I can, to use my resources and connect my networks to help others. If there are challenges or if there's certain areas in their life that they don't have resources to help them, at least Let's Talk is a platform where they can go for that as well. Living in Dubai specifically, a big topic that I hear, and I did address it, was loneliness. It's a great place. There's loads of social things to do, and I've been in Dubai for coming up to 13 years, so it's definitely very much home. But there are a lot of people that are lonely. You can go out and have a great dinner, but you come home and you sit alone, or you don't have someone that you can actually really connect with when things get tough or make, big decisions. So I think Let's Talk has helped me to hopefully bridge that gap as well and bring people together. Those that are facing challenges or those that want to meet new people and they don't know where to go. I'm massive on authentic content creation. Someone called me an influencer the other day and I was like, I'm an influencer? And they're like, yes, because what you're doing is helping to influence in a positive way, I should hope. And that was never my goal. But I think, if that's what's coming out of Let's Talk and it's for a greater good, then I'll take it. Yeah, I'll take it.
But I'm sorry, just one thing that you say loneliness is a big thing in Dubai. It's not just a big thing in Dubai. I think it's everywhere. And social media has managed to connect our profiles, but not us. In fact, I think it disconnected us in a lot of ways.
Yeah. Yeah, I completely get that. I mean, I'm using Dubai because I've been here for 13 years now, living full time. But I'm sure across the world, it's been a while since I've lived and worked in the UK. Yeah, social media, it can be a place where it can disconnect, and that's why I opened up the next pillar of Let's Talk, which is the community side, the live events, basically, because I had a lot of people consuming the content. Obviously, well, engaging on social media, but you're not in front of the people. And obviously, I can't host everybody and connect with everybody through the studio concept. So the Let's Talk Live events bring that connectivity together. I just held an event 2 weeks ago, and someone very new to Dubai was like, this is the exact community that I needed. I've only been here for 3 weeks, and I was thinking to pack my bag and go back because, it's been 3 weeks of quite a lot of loneliness. And I think hearing that and taking Let's Talk to another step shows that, there is a need to combat this loneliness. And I'm speaking specifically in Dubai, but like you said, I'm sure it is all across the world, to be honest. And yes, social media can be a double-edged sword for that, I think, for sure.
I think, like you are very right that in this loneliness, people are starving to talk to someone and have an honest conversation. I find myself a lot in situations in bars around the world when I start to talk to someone, and most of the times, like I say, 80% of the times, people actually want to have a conversation, and it's it's a conversation without a purpose or a goal. It's just a sudden moment of honest conversation. People react really well to that. So going there about a bit about the topics, like you speak and talk about hard topics like love, divorce, loneliness, even money and faith, which are two things you never talk about in Dubai. So and people kind of open up. So how hard is to talk about climate change now?
Yeah, climate change. So obviously, that is we touched on it on the podcast, obviously naturally because of the field of work, and that was actually really enlightening for me. I think it is hard. Do you know why I think it's hard? Because there's so much noise. I'm not in the industry, but I see and I consume a lot around it as well, whether in my kind of workplace, or just general, in terms of my research and what I'm reading. So I think it's hard to actually hit home and get the messages that are more purpose driven. They're not buzzwords. They're not organizations feeling, oh, we need to tick a box. We need to be seen to be doing something around it. And I think because there is a lot of this kind of noise, which may not actually be authentic, I think it's hard for people like yourself, Zoltan, that are actually trying to make a difference and an impact, to get into the people that need to hear about it and understand it properly, and hopefully make a change, really. So there's a lot out there around climate change. I don't know if all of it is purposeful, authentic, or actually accurate. So I think it is a difficult topic to touch on. And I think people, again, they disconnect from it quite a lot until something happens in your day-to-day life and it disrupts. And then you're like, oh, this thing is real. But, there's many people that have been talking about it and trying to do something for many years, that are not really getting, very far with it, I would say. But you might say otherwise, but I think, because there is so much noise.
That comes from that disconnect. It comes from that, what you just described as noise, and what you keep using the word authenticity, which, I agree with that. I just call it fact. There's, and a lot of people start arguing with facts. It's as if they didn't speak the same language. And I don't mean English or Arabic. I mean, 2 plus 2 is 2, and 2 plus 2 is 4, and let's not argue with that. And so how do you start a conversation with someone who doesn't speak the same language in that sense, who doesn't believe when you tell them that, chemtrails are not there to destroy your digestive system, right? So like, how do you on a show start a conversation with somebody like that, or just in general when you meet someone? What do you say?
Do you know what? Yeah, I think it comes down to the human level, right? I think in anything, if I'm meeting a stranger, and a lot of the time with Let's Talk, I'm meeting, like Zoltan will know, I'm meeting people for the first time. And I'm hoping that, I'm creating a safe space. But I bring it back to that very basic level. We're both human beings. A topic like climate change is and can and will impact everyone, to be honest. And if I'm someone that doesn't resonate with it or understand the facts or can't digest the facts, then I think making it relatable, we have examples of the Dubai storm that impacted so many people, it impacted our livelihood, our homes, our day-to-day, etc. But it's not a new topic. I'm sure many people have given warnings around it. People have seen this, people have lived through it. I personally haven't. But if you take it to that human level of well, look at the storm and look how it impacted you. And these are the facts around why it happened. I think people are more willing to listen. I think the storm definitely was an eye opener for quite a lot of people in Dubai that probably was not very engaged or didn't really believe the facts, like you say, when it comes to certain topics. And I think for me, anything that I'm addressing, yes, it needs to be based on facts. And let's just take it to that human level. Yeah, that helps.
I remember last year when the big storm hit Dubai. Of course, it was a topic for months, but this year, with the early summer, with the early heat, I was in Dubai like 4 weeks ago, and then off to Western Africa. And in Dubai, it was kind of natural for them that everyone that, well, it's hot. It's summer came early. So what's up? No one actually started to have a conversation with me on the cause for that. Why is it getting hot that early? Then you go to Western Africa, where the weather is changing in a brutal way at some places, and it's part of people's daily lives. So if they meet someone who might know more than them about this, then they will start an endless conversation, which was very hard to get out of because it's about their lives. And do you think that big cities, and I don't want to shame Dubai, it's a fantastic city, but big cities, megapolises, kind of feel even more detached, that we don't need climate for our survival. We are going to survive because we are, all glitz and glamour in these big cities.
Yeah, do you know, I think it's quite interesting because I was queuing up in a very long lift line today where it was coming out of the door, and we were talking about how hot it is early. And someone actually in front of me, not based in my office, was talking about, well, this is climate change related. If I'd gone back, I don't know, a year or two or so into, but that would never, it's just like, oh, it's hot, we're complaining, let's just get into the AC and get on with our day. So I hear that side of it a bit more, not as much. And I think obviously the infrastructure and the way the economy is built up in Dubai, you can kind of get on with your day to day, even though it's hot, right? There's AC everywhere. Going to West Africa, because obviously my background, I'm Ghanaian. I was speaking to family members not long ago, and they were talking about the flooding and the extreme weathers that happen there. And it impacts their day to day because the infrastructure is very different. And that's it goes back to the human element and how is it impacting people. It may be a bit coated in Dubai because we have an infrastructure that allows us to still get in a car, drive home, be in AC, where in Ghana, there may be, some people that don't have the luxuries of being able to just deal with whatever the conditions are. So I think that's probably what makes it different. And maybe that's why people still are not talking about it as much in bigger cities where their infrastructure and the economy looks quite different, to be honest.
So if basically what you're experiencing is what I assume is going to happen eventually, that the moment it touches people's lives directly, they'll start realizing, oh, then maybe it's really out there. But I think by the time we get there and by the time it touches you, it's too late. It's way too late. And we should be able to communicate it right now. And we should be able to communicate it to generations that are following us. And I don't know if you've seen the series on Netflix called Adolescence. It's a British, it's fantastic, I think. But I watched that thing and I'm like, all right, so I've learned a bunch of new words. And I also, I don't know if you knew, I had no idea that different colored heart emojis mean different things. I learned that from that series. Yeah. And so, yeah, but then how do you go about communicating the reality of the situation to that generation when, as you said, there is so much noise out there and so much misinformation about climate change and who caused it and what can we do about it? It's really hard to break through. And we don't know what color heart emoji to use.
Yeah. No, and when you said that, I was like, I don't even have the answer. I mean, a day-to-day example for me. So I have a son, he's 5 years old. He's actually in a school that is built and quite well known. I think one of the few in Dubai around sustainability. So they have biodomes, they teach them about recycling and, from quite a young age. And that's what the school is known for, is on top of obviously the curriculum. And I'm seeing it in pockets. We went on a staycation over Eid and somebody had dropped, I didn't even see, a lady had dropped something on the floor. And he was trying to follow after her to say, excuse me, you need to pick this up. So I think it's, being intentional. I'm grateful that the school are, very kind of good at educating the kids. He'll tell me, mummy, you're driving me to school every day, but the car is bad. But we have a 30-minute drive at the moment to get to school. So it is starting from that. I don't have the answer to that because it's a huge task, right? And what the next generation looks like. But I can see it practically in my son for being very intentional, putting him in a school that is educating them about this, showing him at home what this looks like. Obviously, he was here with me in Dubai because of the storm, talking about why the storm happened, because, for 4 years of his life, he's only really seen sun and a bit of drizzle. So I think it's intentionality on an individual level, but yeah, that bigger topic, it's hard. It is hard.
Yeah, but apparently the things you're saying, it's not that hard. You know, your 5-year-old
Well,
son perfectly gets it. And
it's hard in the sense of I'm a parent that's put him in that environment so he gets it. But I'm one of how many, I'm not sure if everybody wants to be that intentional.
you're definitely the minority. But in this one, I mean, and okay, you know what? It's easier to explain to a 5-year-old, I guess. And because you can lead by example, try explaining this to some radical individual and try to convert them, or explain to them that, do we have to convert them? Like, how do we get through to them?
I wish I had the answer for that. I
Yeah,
don't
yeah.
know.
No,
And
we would be
the calls
sitting.
that,
We would be
yeah.
all sitting at someplace else and explaining the politicians how to do that. I'm a big politician shamer, but I'm not going to go there today. I already went there in my welcome notes. So yeah, so we were talking about the social media noise, and and of course there's a lot of noise about gossip about celebrities and all that. We all know that
Yeah.
half of it is not even true. In politics, it's I cannot even say it's a festival of bullshit. And but when we talk about climate change, to raise awareness, and a lot of people are trying to raise awareness. Scientists, groups of scientists, at the UN, or at least parts of the UN, and a lot of organizations, even in the UAE, and they do some great work. And I kind of tell this example about Dubai a lot of times, that there is a great project of the rehabilitation of the coastline, and it's not breaking through social media because it's not as interesting as Kevin Hart on Jumeirah on Jumeirah in a Jumeirah hotel. So it's not as
Sorry for interrupting. Here's the thing. I heard about the rehabilitation and I find it damn sexy. I have not heard about Kevin Hart being. I think that's just like, but that's sort of it. That never reached me, that news. So for the first time, I'm hearing about it here.
So how like do you see through, or will you try to help your son to see through all that mess on social media? Because there is a lot of polarizing, like in every topic. Like you look into faith, you look into any kind of religion or politics related, there's always polarizing extreme stories and extreme level bullshit. I'm sorry for my French, but you cannot even say it in a different way. There's a lot of misinformation going. Climate change is the same. There's a I don't want to know group, or I could say it in a way worse way, which would be the truth. I don't give a duck type of a group. And there is the there is the very pro group, and then there is this loud but stupid group of who are not just denying but straight out making evil out of people who are trying to do something for the climate. So how can you see through that, and how will you be able to teach your son to see through that?
Yeah, it's good. I had a conversation just the other week with another parent in terms of, what does the future look like for my son and her son? They're around the same age. And what's the next generation look like, particularly when it comes to social media? Because at this point, oh my goodness, if you don't apply wisdom and do some extra digging and some research and, just have a sensible mind, you could consume a lot of stuff that is not relevant and not true, actually. I think in anything as well, as a parent, I think it's given Zane the right tools to be able to think a bit more. Don't just, and I tell him this, don't just believe everything someone tells you. Question, ask. Kids are great at this age. They will ask 1,000 questions to dig. And my son is very much like that. But I think the noise on social media, I think you have to apply your own wisdom. I think you have to be sensible with how much you're consuming. And you can't just go for the clickbaits or the 40-second reel around climate change. Do your own digging. Is this factual? Does this make sense? Go to credible resources. Have conversations around it if you genuinely want to learn as well. I think it's hard to stop, obviously, the use of social media and what's being put out there because it's a platform for everybody to have access to. But I'm seeing just through Let's Talk, again, I always go back to, I call it authenticity. We've also called it facts. I think there is a community that want the facts. There is a community that are tired of all this flashy stuff that has no substance. And there's a community that are trying to find, real sources, real information, and connect with credible people that are not just out there for going viral, but actually have a bigger purpose.
You have live events now, and you attend a lot of events. I follow her on social media too, so I see that you're very active. You live a very active social life. And do you find it as a party topic, or it's when you start to talk about climate change, it's like, who is this weirdo, and people kind of like, let's not invite her for the next one.
No, I don't. Well, maybe it's my group of people. I think it's also who you associate with. And usually the events I'm going to, it's quite like-minded people. It's a network of people that I want to be in front of, engaging with. Obviously, not all of the events I go to are around climate change. Topics like this do come up in passing, and people are willing to share their thoughts, etc. But it never goes into like the whole agenda, if I'm quite honest, unless I'm intentionally going to an event that is around climate change. Dubai's gotten better. I haven't seen many. I think, when it's hot or, if there's like a theme of the month, then it comes up. But I don't think it's as consistent as it should be. But again, I don't think people are shying away from talking about it. I used the example this morning. We just ended up having a very casual conversation around it because of the heat, etc. But it's not, I don't think there's agendas based around these topics per se when I'm looking at the event space or the events that I'm going to anyway. So more can be done for sure. Yeah. But I don't think people will find me weird if I brought up the conversation.
I need to cut in. She mentioned COP, so she kind of like obliged me to shame UN on this one. I've been to United Nations organized events in the Gulf for climate change, and I think what was heard there and the carbon footprint of the whole thing are on a very different level. I mean, what was decided there was here, and the carbon footprint of the event was up here. And it's like those events. That's why I hate climate-related events. I have been invited to a lot, and I hardly go anymore. I like to go to schools and universities, talk to kids and children about this. But these events are a big waste of money and energy. And I think this whole climate awareness thing and related events should be rethinked and reorganized. And that's just my part of United Nations shaming. And now back to you, Balazs.
That was Grandpa's rant for today. So yeah, no, because you talked about that you go to the same sort of circles where people seem to be on the same page with you. And, that's true for most of us. And it's true, even on social media, especially on social media, because the algorithm pretty much learns our taste and we get our own feed, right? So
that's why you didn't hear about Kevin Hart.
I did not hear about Kevin Hart. See, that's the thing. Yeah, well, but the thing is, okay, so but we are back to the herd mentality, right? So back in the day, one herd had different gods, the other herd had their own gods. They lived 30 miles apart their entire lives. They didn't know about the other, right? And if one herd, if I go over to you and they say, hey, look at this three-headed goat, that's the one we praise because they bring the rain, you'd look at me like, what? No. It's the boa that does, we do the dance and we would kill each other over it, right? So we are back at square one. We are back at herd level where I don't know your God, or I know it and I dismiss it as foolish because my God is right. And you do the same. And that's where we're at. So if we don't talk across, how do we get the point across? Where's the solution? I'm asking. I really don't know.
Yeah, you're asking me questions that I don't know the solution. I mean, yes, trying to tap into and be part of different networks, etc. But also, I think it goes down to you have to tap into people that actually want to hear. You know, you could go across to that group and literally they're like, yeah, okay, not interested. So that's the struggle as well. You know, you can go into different forums, etc. But are they willing to hear? Do they want the facts? Or do they want the propaganda? So I think it's how do you convert that person? I think it goes back to that human level of, hey, you know what, your everyday life is going to look, or it has looked like this. This happened because of this. But because you need to, there's no point going into those networks where people are closed ears, right? But trying, there's no harm in trying. So it's a difficult one, especially with the topic when it comes to climate change, because there's so many varying opinions and the facts are the facts. But trying to convert people to understand and make a change is never easy in anything. It's never easy in anything. But yeah, you're right. I think there is an element of you can't just stay with the same circle and hope that just that circle are the ones that are going to change what we're facing now. But how you convince and allow people to have a bit more wisdom around it, that's the big question. I think that's in many things. That's in many things.
Yeah, and we live in a world where even the fact that climate change exists is contested, and that's not me saying it; it's studies saying it. That people don't believe in climate change, that it even exists. And when you go to, like, I hate the phrase "third world," but when you travel in the third world, no one contests the fact that climate change exists. So that's are we kind of that stupid that we are going to wait in our big city lives until it hurts us, and then we're gonna cry a bit, then pick ourselves up and start to do the right thing? Is that what we are going to do?
I growing up, sometimes my parents would say, if you don't want to listen now, you have to learn the hard way, right? And sometimes it is that. Again, it goes back to we use the your West Africa example versus like more cities that have greater infrastructure. I know firsthand, you know, West Africa, the infrastructure, it impacts them so much more where they could be like, how could you not see that this is the cause? And probably they're the ones with the heart posture that want to do better with what they have versus people that will have to learn the hard way, I think. And I think sometimes that's the reality of life as well.
I want to go back to loneliness because that's it's hard. I would say that's one of my favorite topics when it comes to climate change. I think the two are very much interconnected. We live, or a lot of people live on social media, and live on social media. They feel isolated, but also in a way connected. But it's a secure connection to the world.
Yeah.
There are not my ego is not risked on social media because I can control it. My heart or my feelings are not at risk on social media because I can control what part of me I let out on social media. So I do think that climate change and the effects of climate change and the contesting the fact that climate change even exists comes from that kind of isolation. Because if I want to be, honest to myself, if I put aside my emotions, my brain, and I want to be loved, it's easier to say that this was just a storm. It's easier to say that there is no danger coming for us. It's easier to say that humanity thrives to please people than say that there is something gloomy and dark coming for us. And it's going to take care of the way we live today. And it's going to be the end of the world as we know it today. So it's a very secure position to say that. So do you think that if we try to open more and more people, that can be a trigger for real conversations, which can be a trigger for real connections, real emotions, and those ultimately lead to a fundamental change of the mindset, which we always talk about at every show about different topics, which will then make us or enable us to kind of save the world, as I like to say. Do you think that that's the road to?
Yeah, I think Yeah, no, I think definitely. To your point, first of all, I mean, who doesn't like the fairy tale, right? Even if we look at the movies, there's always a happy ending when it comes to it. So I think that's something that a lot of people seek, right? They don't want the reality of what's happening. How do you get them? How do you wake them up a bit and shake them in terms of like the reality of life's not a fairy tale necessarily, or we're not living in this fairy tale and the reality looks like this unless we change. I think you do have to tap into people that want a mind shift change, people that are willing to embrace their reality and the reality of the world, and not live in this kind of like safe bubble of social media, and also what they're choosing to consume. Because I have friends that literally they will ignore a certain topic because they don't want the feeling of what that may bring of fear or etc. or what this looks like for the next generation. But yeah, it's important because that's the only way you can make a change for the people that are a bit more closed mind into it and not trying to actually hear and understand the bigger picture and the dangers of what we're facing when it comes to climate change. Um, but again, I wish I had the answer. I mean, you guys are trying to do a great job of doing that. I wish I had the answer of like, how do you convert people to this? How do you change the mindset of people? That's the biggest thing.
Your response was sort of related to as it pertains to social media consumers and users. So what about the content creators? What about the people that make money off of that content? Because it used to be that money made the world go round, right? Now it's clicks, it's views, it's engagement, which is basically your time, which is then converted into money, which is then converted into power for those influencers. I'm sorry, but
Oh, no, well, I don't call myself one, but yes.
yeah, but okay, so here's the thing. With money, you then used to be able to buy that influence, right? Or that whatever. You could offer them money to change their views or do whatever. How do you offer a power deranged person? You don't necessarily have to be the president of the United States. You could just be an influencer with 1 million followers who is deranged in his or her own world. And yeah, you want to convince them to, listen, man, that storm wasn't just a storm, but they won't budge. So what?
Yeah.
What's the solution? Or are they gonna live stream the apocalypse? Or like what? What's next?
Yeah. But you're dealing with people, and people are complex, and people have their own opinions, and people, fortunately and unfortunately, are going to do what they want to do. Yeah, and I think you're right. And now it's about who has the biggest following. We see it all the time. The first thing people will ask, "Oh yeah, you're on Instagram. What's your following?" Not what content do you do? What purpose is the content? How authentic is it? How's it changing lives? How's it helping? How many followers do you have? Um, and yes, sometimes, unfortunately, there's a big group of people, influencers, that have the voice, they have the following, quote unquote, but are not interested in, the real topics, the real life stuff, the facts of, that's not what. I guess that's also not what's making them money, right? 'Cause their following is bringing them money. So it again, it goes back to these very difficult conversations because you can't force somebody to necessarily want to make a change. And I think that's the difficult part, right? You hope that sometimes the smaller group, right, who are doing the hard work, who are being consistent with it, who are people that are helping to influence these influencers in terms of following them, they make a shift, they start defollowing, they start following the groups that are making an impact, they start focusing their attention into the right things. And then that word gets spread in that way. But yeah, when you're dealing with human beings and trying to make a change shift and a mindset shift, it's such a difficult thing. It's such a difficult thing.
I'm going to turn to the communications expert now. So a lot of campaigns try to kind of subdue this gibberish on social media. The loudest voices, they try to, overshout them. One of the examples, very good example, but a very bad campaign was Greta. And Greta shaming is also one of my habits. And she really hurt the topic of climate change by her advocacy. And that's not me saying. We had the first episode, and we had a study for this, that these activists who try to jump out and become the Batmans of saving the planet hurt the cause more than they help. So what would be your tactic to If I just gave it to you as a, hey, Sharon, I want to have this campaign. I want these loudest voices to be muffled a bit, and I want my message to go through in climate change. That this is more like my message is this is more a human question than a technical question. Climate change. We need to change in here, not necessarily in build super technology to fight climate. We need to change here. So, what would you do?
I don't know if it will make the biggest change, but what I've learned even through my years of marketing is, and the biggest brands will know this as well, people are buying from them because they resonate ideally and usually with people. I go back to that human element as well. I think whatever you're trying to do is you need to bring to life, what does this mean to Sharon, who may not be a climate change expert, who may kind of, is interested in it, etc. If I'm using that as an example, how am I going to touch her? And what is that thread that could potentially touch many others like Sharon, or maybe the ones that are on the fence that need to actually be more educated, that have a decent profile and could make a difference as long as we can touch on kind of what this looks like for her. I always go back to that people element. So I think whatever you're trying to do, and I know it is anyway, it has to be led from authenticity, the human element, and what this actually means for you. What does this mean for your 5-year-old son in 5 years? It has to be a bit of a wake-up call to say, if you don't even care about yourself right now, what about your child, that hopefully you have a care for? So I always think anything that you do in terms of content, comms, big brands, I think you have to go back to your why. Hopefully it's purposeful and you go back to the human level, and you would hope that would be enough to make a change. And if it's not, then that's a big worry, right? That's a big worry. But what you're trying to do is not easy. But I think also as well, Zoltan, going into that next generation. So yeah, maybe I'm not going to waste my time at a conference that is like 6 hours. I'm going to go into a school. I'm going to go into a university. I'm going to work with, the education board around this. Maybe we need more sustainable schools that are genuinely trying to make a difference. And that's where we start, instead of, the adults that are a bit set in their ways and they're not going to shift per se. But maybe we work at a different level, I think. So I think you have to look at maybe your audience is a bit different now, to hopefully make a change.
I'm still stuck on the. Sorry, I can't get past it. It's because you keep going back to authenticity, and that's what you are seeking for apparently when you're profiling somebody for your job as a professional, and
Yeah.
or when you're looking for the sort of the ideal candidate for a climate change advocate. Like, however, the level of influence, and Zoltan back me up on the study, it's like 7 out of 10 social media trending posts about climate change were hoaxes. So 70% of whatever is trending is actually false. So I'm talking like that. By that rationale, if I just sample a group of people, 70% of the audience will not be well informed, so they're not authentic. So how am I getting through to the person who is not authentic? Because then it has to be a different emotion that I have to sort of resonate, right? It can't just be his conscience. It can't just be the facts, because it's not going to get through because it doesn't get it.
Let me give a
But
highball.
also you have to think about what is driving that person, right? And sometimes it is, if it's money, this is what's making me money. This is what's putting food on my table. And I don't care if it's factual or not. And I don't care what because that's the majority of what's happening, unfortunately, right? People are not caring about whether it's factual or not, but it's making me money. It's helping my lifestyle, etc. I think you need to go into what is that 70%, what is driving them, and what conversations can we have with them. If it's not, touching on the authenticity, etc., you have to adapt your approach based on who are these 70% of people that are putting out this propaganda. You can't change everybody. Even if it was money, say you would say, I'm going to offer you this. I want you to be involved in this campaign, but the messaging has to be factual. We have a bigger purpose here. We want you to. Someone might still turn around and say no because I don't believe in climate change. But you're not going to touch on everybody. You can't convince everybody to make that shift. But I think you need to observe who are the people that are putting out this content that is not factual and what is driving them. There could genuinely, unfortunately, be people that are thriving off putting out this negative unfactual information. And that's what they want to do, right? Because we live in a world, unfortunately, where human beings are complex and what triggers them, what thrives them, what drives them isn't always the right thing. So yeah, again, it's a difficult topic because we're dealing with humans, and humans are not straightforward and they're not easy to engage with.
And also, it's kind of like a highball I wanted to throw you before you answered that. When I met Sharon and the whole experience of Let's Talk DXB, like she is oozing authenticity, and that's why that's her brand. Like that's her personality. She made a brand out of her personality, which is a fantastic marketing move, actually. And so she's really trying to do that in every topic, and I like to listen to her shows. I usually listen to, because it's a car thing for me to podcast. Like 80% of the world.
But Randy, that's a good and that's the honest thing about you as well that gets through, and that I don't falsify myself either. I curse like a sailor. I say it like it is, and I don't give a fuck because that's the way I am, and that's what people get. Like they look at you, they listen to you, and if you're not lying, you're not falsifying your persona for social media or whatever event you're attending, then people will actually cling to that because you're not bullshitting, you're not selling something that you aren't, because it's really tiring and really difficult. Now, and a lot of people still do that because that's the way, like you said, that's the way they can make money. And it just boggles the living shit out of my mind. I don't get why they are so short-sighted. It's like we have this expression in Hungary for the sort of like the one summer salesman that wants to make enough money during one season to build his house and his summer house and buy a car. And he doesn't give a shit about the consequences. Most people on social media spreading all this bullshit are like that. And I'm like, God, dude, you're not going to have Instagram in 3 years or 5 years because servers won't have power.
Yep. And they don't get the bigger picture. Yeah. But that's the challenge, I think, as well. It goes back to, I mean, I say authenticity a lot because that's just who I am. I can have, I can come across someone at an event or a colleague and be like, dude, seriously, what is all of this? Like, what is all of this? Like, I want the world to be great and just be who you are. And someone else would be like, yeah, it doesn't make me money, or I don't get it, or I can't resonate with that, or that's just not the way. And that's the difficulty of, us being different human beings, having different thoughts, different beliefs. Just being created differently. But all I can do is just show up as me with a purpose and a passion. And want to do the right thing. But yeah, unfortunately, we live in a world where not everybody cares enough about that. And I think that's where it brings challenges when we are trying to make a difference, or the work that you guys are doing, because there's a big group of people that they don't care enough, or they don't want to be educated enough on it.
Yeah, but I have one more last question, but before that, I want to tell you, Balázs, and maybe that you are present at this occasion, Sharon. We should call this show Two Grumpy Men. One is swearing, the other is shaming United Nations and politicians. So it's like we are we should be more smiling. We should choose lighter topic than climate change, right?
Two passionate men. It's two passionate men.
Thank you.
I think it's passion
So-
that's coming out.
One last question, and this is my favorite topic about shaming these entities, is Sharon, is there hope for us as humanity?
Oh, that was a big sigh. I think that was a big sigh. The end of the show. No, I mean, if I base it on my faith, I'm a Christian. I think, as you know, Zoltan, I've mentioned it. We're encouraged to live by hope, right? Even in the world that seems shaken, even in all the madness that we hear, everything that we see, I'm encouraged that there's hope in people. I'm getting to see that through Let's Talk DXB. I started Let's Talk DXB probably at a time where I felt like all human beings are weird, don't trust anybody, from my personal experience of what I faced in my journey. But I started it out of hope that there must be good people. There must be people with the right heart posture. There must be people that just want to show up and be themselves and do the right thing. So there's hope. When we're going to see all of this great hope and everybody singing from the same hymn sheet, I don't know. But I do have hope in people. And I guess I'm fortunate that I've been able to have that hope because of what I'm doing through Let's Talk DXB and the work that I'm genuinely trying to do. But it's hard. It's hard in society now to keep that faith and keep that hope. But it's there. It's there for me anyway.
Yeah, I hope it's there for all of us. Actually, you've heard Sharon Missa from Dubai
I want more Sharons in the world.
on Two Grumpy Men, and we want more Sharons in the world.
More Sharons in the world.
We need more of you in the world. I get the passion. I feel it. I feel it. So
You're lovely and amazing and intelligent, and thank you for being with us.
Thank you, and
thank you for having me.
And please watch Let's Talk DXB. Get one of the favorite topics out. There are a lot of topics to choose from. Sharon has a big library of shows now, and maybe leave mine later.
That's the grumpy guy.
Yeah, because that was just one grumpy guy with Sharon. But it's an amazing show. Let's Talk DXB, and I hope to hear more about and from you, Sharon.
Yeah, thank you so much. It was a pleasure speaking to you both. Keep doing the great work, even in the madness. Keep doing it.
Thank you very much.
Thanks.
Bye. Bye-bye.
Bye.
Today, 7 out of 10 of the most shared and liked content on social media about climate change is misinformation or conspiracy theory. Things like the Canadian wildfires disaster is caused by the globalist terror attack to trigger climate emergency. Oh, okay. Or the ruling class wants you to eat bugs to cut greenhouse gas emissions. Well, try caramelized grasshoppers with pineapple ice cream. It's yummy. Or the 15-minute city concept is about putting people in ghettos. So it is not about building cities where you can get anything you need for your daily life around you without a car in 15 minutes. Or migrating ducks and geese are the main cause of methane in the atmosphere. What the duck? Or that climate change is the creation of old academics colluding for grants. The same guys who can't agree on any fact formed a global crime ring to rip us off. That's very likely. And last but not least, my personal favorite, which is doubling down on conspiracies. Climate change can't be real because humans control the weather by chemtrails. So what about the reptiles controlling the government? Believe it or not, these were trending topics on social media recently, and masses hashtagged the duck out of these. Let me summarize all that for you. The Great Reset conspiracy theory. It goes like this. The mostly liberal global elite wants to shut down society and restrict your freedom and human rights, wants to take your meat and confiscate your cars, lock you in a ghetto to cut down on greenhouse gas emissions. They created and released COVID-19 for the same purpose. I just don't know where the ducks fit into all this, but I'm sure they will come up with an explanation. Intriguing, right? Nah, not really. How come that all this bullshit glued together by stupidity is easier to believe for some than the fact that we have been irresponsibly polluting our planet for centuries and now we are facing the consequences? How come that you are more passionate about fighting against the Great Reset than fighting for the planet and humanity? Please do tell your theory about ducks and bugs to the people who lost their homes or relatives because of extreme weather events triggered by man-made climate change. I bet you won't, because you just want likes and money. Let me tell you this, life is not measured by likes nor money. It's merely a binary condition. Either you live or you don't. All your ignorance and bullshit is costing and will cost humanity lives. So duck you. And one more little thing. Is being stupid legal? Yes. Is being stupid good for survival? No. Until next time, goodbye.